Welcome to another episode of the Ride and Inspire Rockcast. I'm Roxy. I'm a full-time mountain bike coach, a psychological counselor, and a neuromental trainer that is a mental trainer based on the modern findings of neuroscience. And in case you're new here in this podcast, I share my experience as a full-time mountain bike skills coach and also as a counselor, and I share how you can learn faster, hopefully become a more able and happier mountain biker and person. Today, I want to talk about how you can find a good mountain bike coach. And I'm going to read you a comment first. This is a comment that a colleague of mine made below one of my Instagram posts. His name, or the company, is called Mountain Bike Skills Factory. And he said, people often ask me, how do I find a good mountain bike coach? I usually tell them, absolutely find a coach that is experienced in working with riders like them or the type of rider they want to become. After that, I tell them to seriously consider working with a woman. Why? Because it's harder for a woman to show up in the mountain bike space and be respected as having something useful to teach. Women have to bring a high level of professionalism, excellence, and quality to their teaching just to be accepted at the same level as their less experienced or capable male counterparts. So if a woman has been coaching for a while, chances are that she is a really good coach. So that's what I want to talk about today. For one thing, about women versus men a little bit. And I also want to talk about how you can find a good coach. And also I want to touch on the topic, is a racer or someone who's really skilled and really fast a good coach? So in case you're hearing wind, and in case you're new here, then remember I'm out on my creativity walk with you, and it's a little windy today. It's a warm spring day, but I really wanted to record this today because I know this will bring a lot of value into the world. I know there are so many amazing female coaches and of course also male coaches out there, but I also know that there are a lot of misconceptions around what is a good coach and whether a good coach needs to be an amazingly quick rider and an amazingly able rider. And that's why I wanted to talk about this today, although it's a little windy and I hope the wind doesn't sound too harsh. What I also want to add is that this guy from the Mountain Bike Skills Factory is an instructor trainer for the PMBIA, and I'm an instructor trainer for the BICP. So we both train and certify other mountain bike skills coaches for different organizations. And I love riding with him because it's amazing to see that we're both in this to make the mountain bike sport better and to raise the overall awareness for the importance of good coaching versus just promoting our own organization. Because at the end of the day, this is the first thing that I'm going to say. How do you recognize a good mountain bike coach? In my opinion, you recognize a good mountain bike coach if this person has a certification and not just one, that this person has several certifications from different organizations. I've taken a total of, I think it's 28 certifications now, and I keep taking level 1 certifications again because a real coach, in my opinion, will have that thirst, that desire to learn, and he or she will know that you can never stop learning. So in my opinion, the first thing you need to check when you're looking for a good coach is, does this coach have certifications? When was the last certification? And how many certifications has he or she taken? Because this person should be a role model in promoting a learning mindset and promoting a growth mindset and promoting that you never stop learning. Because why should you be open to learn from someone who doesn't want to learn themselves, right? And that's been also a game changer for me when I was looking for mentors, that the most inspiring people I found were usually the humblest people and those people who kept taking level 1 certifications in different fields and who were the most open to learn. And those people who said, I have perfected my technique or I have perfected my teaching, were those that when I looked more into it, actually those that I couldn't learn a lot from because they had stopped learning many, many years ago. And some people Ooh, bike coming.
Hola.
Hola. So I'm walking on my bike trails and a biker just passed. That's the amazing thing of a broadcast. So many people that I've met in my life that thought they were the best actually had stopped learning, and that they said, I have 20 years of experience, but actually they had 20 years of 1 year experience. So they had 1 year of experience and they kept repeating that 1 year over and over, and that's not 20 years experience, right? So that's something that I can really nudge you to. When you're looking for a good coach, then look for someone who is open to learn, who has that thirst for learning, and who has several certifications from different organizations. The next thing Mountain Bike Skills Factory then wrote in my Instagram comment was, your last sentence is absolutely true. I see mountain bike coach bios all the time with the main thing they are pointing out is their high-level racing results. I train and certify coaches as half of my income. I've had lots of pro riders come through. Some are good coaches, many are not, and most of them struggle to connect with a true beginner to provide meaningful instruction. Just do this. Does not very often work when the student has never done it before. And that definitely brings me to my point 2. Look for someone who, yes, can ride at a level that you want to be riding at, but he or she should not be an expert at this from childhood. What I mean by that is, if the person who's coaching you learned riding as a kid and has never taken many coaching certifications, then this person will have a hard time putting herself or himself into your shoes. So this person will not be able to feel how things feel for you and how hard specific things are for you, because for them, they are easy, and many of the things that feel hard for you are things these people have never ever thought about. For them, it's like, just do a bunny hop, because for them, it really is just do a bunny hop. They are totally in this unconscious competence. They don't know what they know. And for them, it's impossible to imagine how hard it can be for someone starting the sport as an adult. So I recommend looking for a coach who has learned something new as an adult, and also who has been working on their own coaching certification and qualification over and over again as an adult. Because most riders that I have met who learned the sport you want to learn as a kid, they have no idea what they are doing, and they have no idea how to break down skills. They have no idea how it feels to be a complete beginner as an adult, and that's why they can't really teach you what you need to learn. Point 3 I want to make: do you really need a racer, or are generally race qualifications an indication of a good coaching methodology? In my opinion, no, because a good coach has to be a good rider, absolutely. But a good coach has very different qualifications and characteristics than a good racer. A good racer obviously also needs to be a good rider, but the qualifications or the mindset and the characteristics that a good racer has to have nothing to do with the characteristics of a good coach. For example, I have worked with pro-level athletes, and I have also worked with many pro-level coaches. And the pro-level athletes, when they're in a race, they have to be in that tunnel. They are not allowed to think about how others are feeling, not allowed to have their focus outwards, looking at everyone else. They need to have their focus inwards and like a tunnel towards what they want to reach. And a coach, on the other hand, always needs to have their focus open and trying to see everything at once, trying to detect and correct errors, seeing if people are feeling well and safe, seeing if people are doing behavior that may become risky. So if you have a group of 8 riders, then ideally you should be looking at all 8 riders at the same time to really see if there's something going on that you need to address. And As a racer, you want to think about your goal. You will not want to think, oh my God, my poor other racer that I'm racing against, he's not doing as well today, so is he maybe frustrated? So you don't want to look into the feelings of that person. You want to stay with your goal, your own feelings, or even not feel them in that moment, depending on what type of race it is. But you definitely don't want to have your focus on the other people and on empathy for other people. So that alone is a huge different focus these two type of people have. The next thing when it comes to skills is that a racer will have or will need a very high level of unconscious competence. What I mean by that is he or she needs to have skills that are automatic. So he or she cannot think about these skills and shouldn't think about these skills, because every time we think about our skills, we are going to be performing them slower than when they are automatically performing on autopilot. So actually a good racer will not know what they are doing, especially if they learned the skills as a kid. But a good coach should always be able to dissect the skills and to think about the skills. And a good coach should be able to perform the skills at the speed and level of their participant. A good racer, however, it will actually make them slower if they start dissecting and thinking about the skills too much. And if they practice often at a slow speed and ride at a slow speed, it will make them slower. Close to where I live here, I just recently met a couple. They both ride World Cups, and we ride with them sometimes. And they said when they are coaching and guiding a lot, then they become slower racers. So they really need to pay attention not to guide too often and not to coach too often, because slowing down really slows them down in the race as well. And that really hits the nail on the head, that it's two different skill sets. When you're coaching and when you're guiding, you need to go at the level of your participant. And when you're racing, you need to do your best. So you need to give the absolute best at a performance zone level. And with your students, you'll probably be in a safe learning zone, doing and performing skills very slowly, and sometimes even parts of the skills, because you're dissecting the skills and then building it back together. So just like Mountain Bike Skills Factory wrote, most pro riders or most very advanced riders have a problem dissecting the skills and putting themselves into the shoes of their client. So I actually think that it's harder for an amazing rider to be a good coach than it is for a not so amazing rider to work his or her way up to becoming a good coach. And that's why I personally, when I'm choosing a good coach for myself in a new sport, I will look for someone who has a very advanced level, but I will look for someone who's not absolutely world-class level in their own performance, and definitely not no one who is currently performing in races or other competitions, because I know that their focus will be on their competition and not on their coaching characteristics. My next piece of advice on how to find a good mountain bike coach is to find someone who coaches a lot. The more time someone spends coaching, and especially the more time this person spends deliberately practicing their coaching skills, because coaching is a skill set that needs to be practiced and needs to be improved constantly, usually the better this person is. However, also here, pay attention. If this is someone who has been coaching for 20 or 25 years, but has never really worked on improving their skill set and doesn't practice deliberately, but goes on autopilot, then this person may not be a good coach. But if this is someone that you see, someone who practices a lot of coaching, so who has a lot of coaching experience, who takes a lot of certification, who questions him or herself, who's open for questions when you ask them, why is this the way? Can you explain it a different way? So is open to look at new perspectives, then you know that this person is an amazing coach, because he or she will constantly question him or herself and thus improve his or her skill set of coaching constantly. That's also a reason why I don't believe that many racers are good coaches, because their skill set needs to be focused on racing. So they need to spend a lot of time preparing their races and getting fit for their races, and that involves a lot of different skill sets, and usually physiotherapy, strength training, endurance training, skills training. So they need to spend the majority of their time making themselves better and their performance better, that they don't even have the time to put into their skill set of coaching, which is a totally different skill set. And that's why also I don't race. So a lot of people ask me, do you race? I do sometimes, but I don't seriously, because I know that I could then not put as much time as I want to become and stay the outstanding coach that I am. Because for me, developing my coaching skill set really matters much more than getting good race results. Because for me, I have never been from the mindset, I'm not a racing type. And I never had an amazing endurance. And I know that, yes, I may be okay in races, but it's definitely for me not worth it, because I know I'm a much better coach than I am a racer. And that's why I don't want to put in the time to prepare for races, because that time is going to go away from the time that I actually spend coaching and spend developing my coaching skill set. The next piece of advice also relates back to the comment I read at the beginning of this episode. That is, find a coach who is experienced in working with riders like you, or the type of rider you want to become. So really try to find out, what kind of rider are you? What kind of riding do you enjoy? Is it slow speed technical hiking trails? Is it fast speed flow trails? Is it jumping? Is it dirt jumps? Whatever type of riding you want to do, and then find a coach who has experience in coaching riders like this, or who has a lot of experience, or who has a lot of experience in coaching this type of rider, in being this type of rider. And coaching, of course, it always goes, as I said, hand in hand. You need someone who's good at doing it, but also who's good at coaching it, which, as I said, is two completely different skill sets. For example, I really enjoy technical hiking trails, and I'm very good at, let's call it, mountain bike trial skills. So placing my wheels, nose pivot turns, very, very steep, chunky sections. That's what I enjoy. I'm also a pretty fast rider, especially for a woman, because we women usually have less strength and everything, so we will never be as fast as the fastest men. But still, I am pretty much faster than most men I know. And I enjoy technical trail riding. I'm not a big jumper. So if someone wants to book me for big jumps, big drops, then I will say no, because a good coach will also know their limits. And that's why find someone, for one thing, who really resonates with your type of riding, and find someone who will admit what their limits are. Always be kind of careful if a coach says, I will coach all type of riders. I'll coach cross country, downhill, trials, everything, children, adults, because no one can be an expert in everything. I'd rather have someone who has niched down to the niche that I'm really looking for than someone who can do everything and does none of it really good. And that's why I recommend finding someone who's in your niche and who has a lot of experience and a lot of passion for that niche. Another point I want to address is men versus women. So who's the better coach? Is it women or men? And there is no answer to this. I'm sure there are amazing male coaches out there, and there are amazing female coaches out there. I would say there's way fewer female coaches out there, so probably the absolute amount of female coaches out there that are really good is probably less, just because there is a fewer amount of them. But I cannot tell you which is the better coach. What I can tell you, however, is that just what at the beginning of this episode I said, we women still need to struggle more to get males to accept us and to really acknowledge our competence. So usually, if a woman is doing this full time, so is coaching in the mountain bike world full time, If a woman is very successful in the sport, in the coaching business, then that's usually because she has developed a really exceptional coaching skill set. And that's why usually if it's a lady who is very successful, I would say that probably, I'm not saying this applies for everyone, but probably she may be able to help you better. Also, most women I know that I have worked with, either when I was training them as coaches or when I started riding and I had female instructors, were able to explain skills better for women because we women need adjustments because we don't have as much quick strength. We usually have shorter limbs, etc. So a woman will know the adjustments skills need to have for women. But there are also men out there who think about this. Just please, whatever you do, find a coach who will answer your why questions and ask as many as possible questions. A good coach will inspire you way beyond the sports you are doing, and a good coach will always be able to answer your questions, and a good coach will always have the strength to admit when he or she does not know the answer. So the worst, and really this is the worst answer a coach can give, is because I say so, or because it's always been like that, or because it's the only way to do it right. These are not answers from a professional coach. These are from people who think they are gurus, and in my opinion, that is not the personality type of a really exceptional coach. So always ask questions, and if the answer doesn't answer your question, then ask again, because you are paying the coach for you to understand the things, for you to get better at the skills. You're not paying the coach for their good time or for them to feel good or for their ego. You're paying the coach for your sake. So please be brave to ask questions, and there are no stupid questions. A good coach will always love and embrace questions, especially if he or she cannot answer them, because that means that he or she is also learning. So in my opinion, these are the main traits of a good coach and how you can find a good coach. I really hope this episode was helpful for you. I'd love to hear from you if you found this helpful. Share it on social media and tag me. Send me a message over social media. Leave me a rating. And if you want to support this podcast, then you'll find the links below. Buy me a coffee, become a patron, because I'm not earning any money with this podcast. And I really, truly want to help. And it's only possible if you guys support me to do that. Sending my love. It's kind of steep now, so I have to breathe. That's all I've got for you today. Goodbye.